Welcome inside, everyone, to the Mountain West Network studios as we get ready to break down the Mountain West women's basketball season, which tips off November 8th. Today, I am pleased to be joined by Krista Blunk, our women's basketball analyst, getting ready to break down the big questions surrounding the Mountain West. All right, Krista, the preseason rankings are out. Let's take a look at that poll. Who's too high? Who's too low? Who's right where they need to be?
There are big questions. That's the perfect way to put it, Olivia. And I think every single coach in the conference has said it. It's really a question mark. How are things going to play out? But I think we start at the top with Fresno State. They won the tournament last year. So you got to put them there. I think just to start, they got to prove themselves. Not going to be easy to stay there, though. When you look at the number 2 spot, you're looking at Wyoming, maybe a little too high. San Diego State in the 3 spot, I also feel maybe just a little too high. They only have one starter back, a lot of change, a lot of young players. So I believe that New Mexico and UNLV, sitting in the 4 and 5 spots, those are teams that should probably move up as they go along, and the big reason is depth.
All right, now you also have to look at Nevada. With 4 returning starters, they might look to go up in rankings as well. And with Boise State and New Mexico towards the end of the poll, they just have to stay healthy in order to succeed this season. Now moving on, looking at the all-conference team, you have Kayla Woodward of Wyoming, Sam Martin of Colorado State, Taylor Thompson of Fresno State, Terea Cunningham of San Jose State, and Arima Amarikwa of San Diego State. Who did not make the team that you think had a chance at making it?
I think everybody that made it deserved it. I think there just aren't enough spots at this point because there are a lot of talented teams. And because I mentioned UNLV and New Mexico as teams that I think are going to rise above, I believe that some of their players, because there's been major injuries for both sides, you're going to see them come back healthy. Mia Bell in particular from UNLV, their point guard. Elena Cesars, also an incredible player for UNLV. Potential players there. And then for New Mexico, Diva Vaughn. I think because they're getting Sarah Hallis back, she's been out injured, she's going to help open things up for her.
And like you mentioned, Mia Bell coming back from a knee injury, also being a Las Vegas native, she'll definitely be looking to compete in that pool as well. Fresno State Bulldogs, also a preseason favorite in the league. Can Fresno State repeat? And if they do, who's going to be their biggest competitor this year?
I think the answer is yes, they can repeat. And I think when we look at those polls, we say, yes, all of these teams are capable of hitting any of these spots. But for Fresno State, 3 starters back, Taylor Thompson, anytime you have a senior point guard, you have a great chance, and they have that in her. But I think also 3 starters from a team that went on into the NCAA tournament, they've got a chance to be there, but it's not going to be easy because I mentioned New Mexico, UNLV, because of their depth, they could cause some problems. 5 starters back for UNLV, a lot of experience for them. And another team to look out for, and a new team into the conference, Utah State. That is Reagan Peebley, the head coach of Fresno State's former team. She started to build that program. They may come back in and be ready to play against her. So I think Utah State could be a question mark.
You also have San Jose State coming into the league this year. San Jose State has one of the best players in the country with junior guard Terea Cunningham. How do you think San Jose State and Utah State will fare in this first year in the league?
We talk about teams that maybe were seated a little too low. I think San Jose State could be that team. They finished 5th in the WAC, but they have almost everyone back from last year. New head coach, run and gun style of team, as well as Utah State. I think both of these teams are going to come in. We saw what Fresno State did last year in their first season in. They won the tournament. I think they're both going to be fun to watch and great additions to the conference.
Next up, Wyoming, one of the most intimidating arenas to play in the Mountain West. The Cowgirls are picked 2nd in the preseason rankings. Are their expectations too high?
Yeah, they're a team that I always believe can get themselves there. But to start out, you lose 3 key seniors, in particular Chandra Sewell, and she led this team double-double, scoring and rebounding. So you lose pieces like that, it's going to take a little bit to adjust. But they have Kayla Woodward, the preseason player of the year. They have Caitlin Mileto back. They can score in bunches, and they have Shalon Landry, their senior point guard. And when you have a senior leader and you have scoring like they do, there's definitely a chance. But number 2 puts a lot of pressure on those 2 key scorers. I think it's going to take them a little bit to get there.
And the Cowgirls have unfinished business after losing in the semifinals to conference champion Fresno State. All right, now what games in the Mountain West, looking at the schedules so far this season, do you already have marked in red as you're looking forward to?
Oh, there are so many, but I do definitely have a few. Now, there are a couple of non-conference matches. I'm really impressed with the non-conference schedules that the Mountain West have put together, especially New Mexico. You want to talk about a tough schedule. They're going to play Texas Tech. They're going to play Texas. They're also going to play at Stanford. And as well, Fresno State, the defending tournament champs, they have Stanford on their lineup as well. But when you get into conference play, you got to look at January 1st, Fresno State at UNLV. Never easy to play there, and I mentioned UNLV, I feel a team that's going to challenge them. Work your way through January the 15th, San Diego State at Fresno State. That'll be an interesting matchup to kind of see where San Diego State is at that point. And then New Mexico at UNLV the same day, so that's a big day as well. And then finish off January, Fresno State at Wyoming. And we talk about Wyoming and how difficult it is to go there. We'll see where Fresno State is when they have to take a trip to Laramie.
All right, now as you mentioned, that conference game, UNLV versus Fresno State in Las Vegas, January 1st. You can watch it live on the Mountain West Network. All right, best home court advantage in the Mountain West. What court?
To me, there are so many tough places to play, and all the coaches will tell you the same, but Wyoming is the top spot for me. Amazing fan base there. They really get behind their team. The elevation, just getting to Laramie, that's the biggest challenge at times. So very tough to go there. New Mexico sits right behind them. Anytime you have to go to the pit, again, elevation, great fan base. Colorado State, I say any of the teams in the mountains, they cause problems. Air Force as well. You're playing in elevation, big advantage for those teams.
And as you mentioned, Wyoming being a very tough place to play at Media Day, many of the head coaches said the same thing, that court, when you walk in, the atmosphere, it's very difficult. All right, now lastly, if they can get their things together and play really well this season, who is going to be the surprise team this year?
It's so tough to surprise teams when you face them year in and year out. But I think because of injuries last year, you're looking at number 7 Colorado State and number 8 Boise State. They've had injuries. For Colorado State, they had a very young team, new head coach last year. So a little more depth to those teams if they can stay healthy, because you haven't seen some of these players in a while. I think that'll cause problems. Don't forget about Nevada, and you mentioned them earlier. 4 starters back, much improved when they played in the tournament, and they have 6'7", Mimi Maggette. Impressive player, and there's really no one that can match up against her. They could be a big surprise.
The 15th season of Mountain West Women's Basketball tips off November 8th. For Krista Blunk, I'm Olivia Arns. Thanks for logging on to the Mountain West Network.